Wrapping up Sunbelt Media Days. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs have winded down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we will call upon my friend from AL.com, Creg Stephenson, how he sees the Sunbelt Conference moving forward. A lot of discussion on starting quarterbacks, right? Not everybody is Joey Aguilar and App State, Jordan McLeod and Texas State, or Jalen Raynor and Arkansas State. A lot of, maybe even Dylan Morris for JMU. These guys are kind of locked in. But then you have Georgia Southern, Georgia State, ULM, maybe even the Cajuns. South Alabama may be locked in. So we'll talk to them about that. Also contending for a playoff spot. You know, that'll happen potentially very early on if Texas State and App State can set themselves up with early big wins. Texas State has UTSA and Arizona State. And week 2, App State at Clemson, a week after Clemson plays Georgia. And then we wrap it up with who could surprise. Let's get to it. He covers South Alabama and Troy for AL.com. He is Creg Stephenson on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm Dave Schultz, joined by my buddy Creg Stephenson from AL.com, covers the South Alabama Jaguars, along with a little bit of Troy Trojans as well. Thanks for hopping on. Creg, always appreciate your time. Your thoughts on Sunbelt Media Days after a couple of days in New Orleans?
Not a whole lot of news came out of it, but I think that's generally the case with all media days. But I did sense a lot of excitement around the league. Obviously, having access to the 12-team playoff now is a big deal for the Sun Belt. So a lot of excitement about that sort of thing. The league is stable. It was I think the Sun Belt and the MAC were the only two conferences that did not change membership at all this year. So, there's also that as well. So, yeah, I think it's a good time for the Sun Belt right now, seems like.
I like the idea of what Keith Gill said about keeping the divisions. Those are important for the rivalries, a lot in the East and in the West. South Alabama's always had Troy, but, the Cajuns haven't had one. Now they have Southern Miss in their division. If you start that and then stop it, it kind of slows things down. I like the idea of keeping the divisions.
Yeah, I guess mathematically you could make it work if you went to 9 games, but if you're going to stay at 8 games in the conference, it would mess up some of the rivalries, like you said. For example, South Alabama would still play Troy every year. Sure. Louisiana would still play ULM and so on, but you wouldn't be able to play whatever your secondary rivalry is. Louisiana and South Alabama wouldn't play every year. Southern Miss wouldn't play Troy every year. App State and Coastal, which is a big deal, or App State and Georgia Southern, I should say, which is a big deal, may not take place every year. So, yeah, I think that they like the idea of division, playing the same teams, most of the same teams every year. And, it seems like they have the rotation figured out to where you get around the league often enough.
You mentioned there is an excitement about the 12-team playoff. We're going to find out about some of that potential really early, right? Texas State has UTSA and Arizona State early. App State is at Clemson in week 2. Clemson is coming off of the game against Georgia, and God forbid Clemson goes 0-2. That'll not the Dabo stuff will overshadow App State, even if App State wins, but App State's not going to care about that. But there is a chance for some teams to go out and win and get in the top 25, in the month of September.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody just about has a big game early. Troy, I think, plays Iowa. South Alabama plays LSU, which is not a good place to be. I think they have App State and LSU back to back, which I don't know who was in charge of that, but it was not a good move.
I'm going to guess that Major Applewhite did not have a smile when you reminded him about back-to-back games with LSU and App State.
I think that what I understand, they have a little input on the scheduling, or they can make requests or whatever. And they said the only thing we don't want is App State and LSU back to back, and that's what they got. So
like someone's trolling them is what it feels like.
I guess. Yeah.
All right, so we got a lot of new coaches, right?
Mhm.
I mean, Major Applewhite, same spot, different role. Jared Parker, a new coach. Bryant Vincent. Anyone make an impression?
Yeah, I was impressed with Bob Chesney, the new JMU guy. Of course, he's been at a high level at Holy Cross in the FCS for a long time. Made a lot of deep playoff runs, and obviously they kind of went the same path they did when they hired Signetti a few years ago. So yeah, I was impressed with him. I'm trying to think of any of the other. Of course, I've dealt with Parker and Applewhite already, so no surprises there. But yeah, I would say Chesney was the one that kind of jumped off the page a little bit.
Well, let's talk about Major Applewhite because, he came in, I don't know about a cloud or anything like that, but, was very closed off when we first met him as the offensive coordinator, thinking that he was at Alabama or Texas or something like that. And it's, you, me, and Tommy Hicks, and once in a while, Simone Eli. Right. We noticed he loosened up, and now he's getting a second chance to be head coach. How has he handled the new role with the Jags?
Yeah, he's pretty close to the vest. I think I didn't time everybody yesterday, but I'm fairly certain their presentation was the shortest. It was like, everybody's allotted 30 minutes. I think they went about 14 minutes at South Alabama. So he didn't have a whole lot to say, playing it pretty tight, and he's like you said, he's a product of that Power 5 world where you have to be, or Power 4 now, I guess, where everything is buttoned up and you're paranoid about everything, and he doesn't want to give anything away. But you get him off to the side, as I know he's actually a pretty funny guy, pretty engaging, and obviously with some of the places he's been, he has a lot of, and places he played, he has some good stories to tell. But he just, for whatever reason, doesn't like to do that publicly a whole lot.
Did you throw him a curveball and ask him about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC?
No, I didn't bring that up, or didn't try to get him to tell Nick Saban stories either. I think he's kind of tired of that.
Let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk starting quarterbacks, teams that appear to have quarterbacks locked in, and who has the quarterback competitions heading into fall camp. We'll do that right after I tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's get back to our conversation with AL.com's Craig Stephenson about the starting quarterbacks in the Sunbelt heading into 2024. We're talking to Craig Stephenson, AL.com, wrapping up Sunbelt Media Days on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so let's start talking about it. We got quarterbacks. And let's start out with the team that you're covering, South Alabama. It seemed like that was headed in one direction. Gio Lopez was basically the backup last year, had an outstanding bowl game, and then did not complete a pass in the spring game. Has anything changed to derail him being the starting quarterback, or are they playing more than one, or what is up with South Alabama's quarterback situation?
I don't think so. I actually asked Major about this yesterday off to the side after he was on stage, and he said Gio's going to be the first guy on the field when they take when they go out for practice now, because he kind of earned that from last year, and also just being the most experienced guy and all that sort of thing. He did say, though, that there are no jobs guaranteed at least until the first scrimmage, until after the first scrimmage, which would be, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks into camp, whatever it is. But I would be surprised if it's anybody other than Gio Lopez when they tee it up August 31st. I think he's going to be the guy. He showed enough in the bowl game, and you know the spring game. It's a little overblown. They don't, again, Major's so paranoid they don't want to show anything. They were basically calling it off a napkin, as he said, like that's how big their play sheet was. You know, so I wouldn't put too much stock in it. I mean, it's kind of, especially for the fans who didn't get to see any practice leading up to that, it was a little bit maybe surprising and possibly discouraging. But no, again, I wouldn't put any stock into it.
Now, are they changing? I guess, do they have to change the offense a little bit? Him being left-handed, and how does Major put his, 2 cents into it, even though it was basically his offense?
Yeah, I think that they will do so. I don't know how much the offense itself changed. I just think there were probably things they couldn't do with Carter Bradley and Jake Bentley before, just because they were not the running threat Lopez is. We saw in the bowl game, he moved around a good bit, and even in the Troy game when he was kind of pressed into action, that he moved and ran. They had some RPOs, and I think that they recruited him with the idea that that's what they wanted. They wanted somebody that could put pressure on them the way guys like Jordan McLeod and who was the Levi Lewis at Louisiana. That's kind of, I remember when they recruited Gio, they compared him to him because they're both lefties. They said, we wanted a guy like that, and they think maybe they have that.
Now, who's the local kid from Mary G. Montgomery? He's a true freshman. Yeah. Where is he at? How was his spring game? Was he there yet?
Yeah, Jared Hollins. He was there in the spring. He actually looked pretty good in the times that I saw him. They also have Bishop Davenport from a former played it as a freshman at Utah State and then transferred in last year. Again, I think they both will have an opportunity at some point, but I think it's Gio's team right now.
All right, so let's do the other team in Alabama. They're starting anew. Gunnar Watson, I made the joke, is out of his 18 years of eligibility.
Right.
No Kamani Vidal, and unfortunately, no Chris Lewis. We wish him the best still on the staff, I guess, and hopefully we'll recover from cancer and come back next season. Do we have a flat-out quarterback competition in Troy?
That's what they're saying. I believe Goose Crowder has a leg up there because he came from West Virginia, which Jared Parker goes way back with Neil Brown. And, they've worked together several times, and they run a very similar offense. So Goose Crowder was the backup last year. So I think he'll probably be the guy. They do have Tucker Kilcrease, who was I think a redshirt sophomore now. They brought in a couple of transfers, one from Gardner Webb, one from Houston Christian, and then they have a freshman, Caleb McCreary out of Montgomery Catholic, state championship winner, quarterback last year. But I do believe Goose Crowder is going to be the guy to start the season.
As he should be, because his name is Goose. How can you not root for a guy named Goose Crowder?
That's right. Talk to me, Goose. That's right.
Well, that's the thing. We can't do that. We can't do the talk to me, Goose, because then there's already the demise is the thing.
That's a good point. Yeah,
he's already gone by the time he's saying that to him. Talking to Craig Stephenson, AL.com on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Cajuns, kind of surprising that Mike Desimo said that heading into practice that Chandler Fields is the number one guy because Ben Wooldridge coming off injury.
Yeah, a little bit. Although Fields, I thought, played okay last year, and obviously they improved deep, down the stretch, and he kind of led them to that. They were one of the, I would say, along with Arkansas State, probably the teams that improved the most as the season went along last year. They were tough out by the end of the year, and it is kind of odd that they wouldn't have more of a competition, but Desmo is an old quarterback, so I think he kind of got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
And places like, App State has theirs, Arkansas State has theirs, Texas State has theirs. They're good. And you're saying South Alabama is Gio Lopez. We'll just go with that for now. But there seems to be a lot of places that are legitimately having competition. Georgia Southern is having a competition. I think Georgia State is having a competition, only because the coach just got there as well. I think Marshall is having a competition. ULM is obviously, they may have 8 different quarterbacks up for it. So there's a lot of teams that are looking for that starting quarterback.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously a function of the transfer portal. Guys moving around, and coming in, even some guys coming in over the summer. You bring, you bring in a Division I transfer during the summer, you're kind of obligated to give them a look in the fall. So it doesn't really make much sense really to have it too set in stone going into August, unless it's a guy that played a lot last year.
Yeah, which they had. That was the kid from Tulsa for Georgia Southern and Kyle Van Treese as well. We're talking to Craig Stephenson, AL.com, Locked On Sunbelt. Your team every day covers South Alabama and Troy. You mentioned or I guess it was mentioned by Tim Beck of Coastal Carolina, they brought in 66 new players. I joked, wait till you hear about ULM, and they brought in over 70 players. But you made a good point. There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, one had a coaching change for one thing, and another was 2-10, and the other one was playing, going into the last couple of weeks at least playing for the East Division Championship. So it is a lot, and again that's the case with everybody. I think that even South Alabama, which kept most of the same coaches, even though they had a head coaching change, they still had 40 or so new guys. Troy. A ton of new guys. They only have 11 seniors or grad students, whatever guys in their last year of eligibility is what they say. Only 3 returning starters. So I don't know that there's a whole lot of, at the G5 level, you're going to get poached or you're going to, run some guys off that aren't good enough to play.
Did you talk to the coaches about how long it's going to take for them to gel? Because we realize this even with college basketball, and they're playing multiple games a week, that it took, an extra, instead of gelling in December or the beginning of January, maybe it takes until the end of January. These guys, what about like Adele McGee with Georgia State, right? Everything is brand new. And I saw him talk about, we got to make sure not only we're on the same page as the players, but I got to make sure the coaches are on the same page. We're coaching the coaches. And so did anyone suggest that, September may be a rough month if we're not all on the same page?
Yeah, well, if it is though, then you're kind of losing your chance to get into that playoff mix because you're going to have to. Most of the teams are playing that power conference team in week 2, week 3, week 4, maybe some even in week 1. And if you don't win that, you're probably not in the serious mix to be that G5 representative because there are some teams around the country, Boise State, Fresno State, Tulane. They're going to be really, really, really good this year.
Let's take one more time out. When we come back, we'll talk about the favorites in the Sun Belt for 2024 and who might surprise. We'll do that right after we talk about FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs have winded down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to, but FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's wrap up the conversation with my buddy Craig Stephenson from AL.com, beat writer for South Alabama and the Troy Trojans. Let's talk about the favorites in the Sun Belt and who may surprise. It's Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. All right, so despite, Major Applewhite and Gio Lopez, they're same team, new roles. Arkansas State, same coach, same quarterback. App State, same coach, same quarterback. What about G.J. Kinney and Texas State? Same coach, new quarterback. And he's the defending Sun Belt Player of the Year. How does he fit into that? Because, what a fiasco that quarterback drama was in the offseason. Then he ended up with the best player in the league last year.
I was going to say they really botched the offseason, and the best player in the league fell in their lap. Because they basically ran off T.J. Finley to bring in was it Delorio, however you say his name, from Arizona. His off-field problems, caused them to get rid of him, and they had nobody. And then there's Jordan McLeod, who is, like you said, the JMU quarterback and offensive player of the year in the league last year. and he just kind of fell in their laps. And I think obviously that players want to play in that offense. We've seen, they were exciting, put up a lot of points, a lot of yards, and they did not seem to have much of a hiccup moving up from Houston Baptist. Is that where they were? Where were they? No, Incarnate Word, I should say. Yeah,
right.
Incarnate Word. They didn't have any hiccup moving up a level. I mean, at least in schematically, and but I thought TJ Finley had a good year, and now he's at Western Kentucky. But McLeod obviously with his mobility gives them a little bit more of a dual threat dimension.
Well, I think Texas State first team. Although I think I'd like to see the votes from the Sun Belt media, from the coaches, that they both gave first team to Joey Aguilar and to Jordan McLeod. I'm not sure I buy that outcome, but whatever the case may be, nonetheless, that means Texas State's got a first team quarterback, a first team running back in Ishmael Mahdi, and a first team wide receiver in Joey Holbert. It's almost going to be a huge upset if they don't win the Western Division.
No, I agree. I think they're the best team with McLeod. I did, when McLeod, before McLeod came on, and after Finley and Delora were gone, I was not high on them. But now that they've got McLeod, I think they're the best team in the West. I do think Arkansas State and Louisiana are coming on. I'm not high on Troy. They like I said, they lost everybody. I think the people voting them first, second in the West, that was out of respect what they've done the last couple of years. And coaches tend to vote chalk a lot of the time. They'll vote who was good last year or who ended the year playing well. So I don't know that they're necessarily a contender, but Arkansas State, the way they played after Jalen Raynor got in the lineup really impressed me last year. I would not be surprised if they make a real run either.
Brian Vincent of ULM barely knows who's on his team. Meanwhile, anybody else's team.
Yeah, I know. That's insane. I mean, you think about it, you only have 85 scholarship guys, and they brought in 73. Now, I don't know that everybody they brought in was scholarship related, but still, that's a lot, man. I mean, there was one coach in the East, I think it may have been Ricky Ronnie at ODU, was talking about they actually have as part of their team meeting, they have what they call Name That Player, where they will flash up a player's photo on the screen and they will say, Dave Schultz, who is this guy? And you have to name who he is and what position he plays. I mean, it's a good way to do it. And then he said when they have the, all the gear they have, they started putting last names on everybody's stuff. So you'll be able to identify guys that's walking around the weight room or whatever.
So now summer camp icebreakers are coming to college football.
I mean, you got to do it somehow. Yeah. The thing where you fall back and they have to catch you or whatever.
Right.
I don't know if they do that, but I guess you have to though. In this, like you said, when you got 40 new guys or more on your team, you it's kind of hard to remember everybody's name.
Yeah, that's a sneaky way for Ricky Ronnie. I appreciate that. He's not doing it just for the players; he's doing it for the coaches too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I've done. They used to. I haven't seen it much anymore, but in the first couple of days of camp, they would put a piece of tape with their name on the front of their helmet for the freshmen. When the freshmen first came in. I haven't seen that much anymore. Now everybody, I think, has numbers on their gear or whatever.
Talking to Craig Stephenson, AL.com, wrapping up after a couple more minutes here. All right, who could surprise? Because, again, I think it's going to be Texas State against App State. Mm-hmm. Basically, I do think the Cajuns are loaded, except at quarterback, and we don't know what we're going to get there. We'll see if Jalen Raynor takes that next step for Arkansas State, because he had a really good freshman year, but a little bit inconsistent. We'll see if there's any fall off from JMU because, as we mentioned, they lost the Sun Belt Player of the Year and lost a bunch of players to, Indiana. That's right. And so we'll see if Georgia Southern can get it going in the right direction. Who do you think could surprise a little bit?
I was impressed with what ODU did as the season went along. I thought they got a lot better. Maybe them. I don't know, but I tend to agree with you that it's App State and Texas State and maybe Arkansas State in the West. I think those are the best teams right now. You can't really, Georgia Southern, I think maybe is a possibility. You can't really count out JMU, even though they did lose a lot of people, they've got a lot of winning tradition at that program. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in the mix.
I wish I knew it off the top of my head, but Ricky, Ronnie, and ODU have this ridiculously impressive home schedule this year. Like Vatek is coming to ODU.
Yeah. There's another one. Somebody else. Texas State is hosting Arizona State also on a Thursday night.
Yes.
That's another one that's going to be really fun.
But Arizona State stinks, or at least they did. So
yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, but it's one of those things where if you win, it looks impressive, even if it's really not, because people won't know that, hey, they're not any good.
Right. And that's again, Well, that's exactly right. That comes the week after the UTSA game. So it's not like UTSA can be a trap game because they lost to them last year. You're not looking, in this case, they're not looking ahead to the Power 5 team because UTSA may be better than Arizona State.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. So when does the South Alabama camp start?
They start 31st, which is on a Wednesday. And so it's exactly a month before the first game. They open with North Texas at home. Then they head to Ohio in week 2. And by the way, that's another one. It's like, oh, it's Ohio. Ohio's a 10-win program every year, so that's not going to be easy. Then they have Northwestern State on a Thursday night. They moved it to a Thursday just to give them some extra time in there before they go to App State on a Thursday night, and then LSU. So.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of a roller coaster ride from what I remember. Like you said, if they could start 3-0 and then go to 3-4.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. And then I think Arkansas State is the next game after LSU. So it's not outside the realm of possibility. They could be 2-4 in the first half of the season.
Right. He is Creg Stephenson. Always appreciate your time. Hopping on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm still disappointed. I can't believe they held the Sunbelt Media Days without me. What's going on?
Well, some of us, I guess some of us have to work for a living. Yeah. Some of us being you is what I mean. Right. Yes, you're definitely missed.
I appreciate it, Craig. Thanks so much.
Yeah.